I'm Karim Shepherd. I'm the commercial manager for Focus Group in the mobile department. I look after the partnerships with the various networks and distributors that we work with. As a group, we offer various different services across telco and IT. I specifically work in the mobile department. I think where we're different to a lot of our competitors, specifically for mobile, is that we offer such a broad range of products. So we offer all of the networks. We're completely impartial. EE and Mdee obviously form part of that. But I think that's where we're very different, is we're not pushing one network more than the other. We really look at all of the networks based on the customer's needs and make recommendations based on that.
So hi, Karim. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time today. So We'll get straight into it, if that's okay.
Right, yeah, go for it.
Fab, good man. So nice, easy one. How long have you been working with Mdee?
I think we've been working with them for about 2 years now. We started working with them off the back of an acquisition that we did for a company who was already working with them. So that's how we were introduced. But yeah, I think it's about 2 years ago now.
Okay, cool. And how do you find working with Mdee in general?
Yeah, good. Overall, really good. It helps. I think that they're all really nice people, which everything else aside always helps just to move things along smoothly. So yeah, we get on well with all of them. They're all very personal, so that helps. And overall, yeah, it's we've dealt with EE in various guises in the past, and yeah, on balance, they're really a lot better. So yeah, we're happy with them.
Cool. Okay. I guess they weren't necessarily, EE wasn't necessarily your biggest connected network as a business for a number of years and stuff. So how would you say Mdee are different as a distributor to other distributors?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. It wasn't our main network, and still isn't, and it probably won't get to that point. But the real difference that we found is that they're kind of experts on EE. They just do EE really, and that's the difference. So for us, we found historically EE a fairly awkward product to sell, partly because it's quite a fast changing product there. It wasn't our specific specialism, so we had quite a lot of gaps in our knowledge and couldn't really keep up with it, particularly because it wasn't our core product. So I would say probably Mdee really bridged that gap, whereas previously I think we were working with partners who were sort of in the same situation as us. EE wasn't their main kind of baby either, and so also couldn't give us that extra level of support that we need to be able to sell it. So yeah, I would say that's the best way to describe it, is that they kind of bridged that gap in our knowledge to enable us to actually sell the product.
Fab. Okay, cool. And in kind of day-to-day terms, how do they do that? Is it training with your team on the product, or is it support with kind of discount approvals? What kind of things do they do specifically?
Both. So both of those I would say are relevant. So training's really good. When we first sort of set up with them, they did quite a lot of direct training. So trainings with individuals or certain teams that needed training on their system. When it came to products, they offer training on those particular products as well. They're fairly flexible in terms of how they do that as well. So they're always offering, if there's a new tariff set out or something new that's come out, if they always offer to do some training with our sales team. And actually that is really beneficial, again, because it's not something we do day to day. Some of the other products we sell, for example, in my role, I'm a bit more of a specialist in those, so I'll run the training, but EE, I just can't keep up because it's not the main part of our business. So they'll do all of that kind of training as well. They're also very kind of reactive as well in that kind of thing. So we've got a kind of setup now where when it comes to doing a deal, it might be that one of our sales guys hasn't done a deal for a couple of months because they don't do a great deal of it, so are kind of out of touch with it. So they'll just call up and speak to one of the team at Mdee, and they'll just run them through it and walk them through it, so that we can still quite quickly get proposals out without having to kind of constantly have your knowledge levels high. So. Yeah,
good. And do you find the answers are speedy? Are they kind of knowledgeable? Or are you waiting much for response?
Overall, we get hold of them fairly well. We do get speedy responses. Sometimes we're there at the mercy of the EE network. We find, from being totally honest, we find that EE there's always been a little bit of a struggle to deal with for the indirect or for the channel. It doesn't seem like it's set up for that, so they obviously have those same problems. So sometimes things take longer than they'd need to be, but I don't really put that down to Mdee. I think they actually buffer that quite well, and so their knowledge is fairly good as well, so most things they can answer. Sometimes if they do have to find out from the network direct, they suffer the same delays that anyone else would, but yeah, I certainly think overall the experience that we get is still better than if we were dealing elsewhere.
Sure. Okay, cool. And do you get involved in the commission side of it as well for the business? Because I was wondering, how do you find the GEM system?
So if I'm honest, I don't get that involved in the gym. So I am involved in the commission side of things, but we still, as far as that side of things goes, we still really lean on the team that we deal with at MD to draw everything up. So a lot of our sales team do use Gem for the smaller deals. And that has been really good because it's easy in knowing where all the tariffs are and going through a guide, and it works everything out for you. But still, more often than not, we actually do lean on the sales team at MD to actually talk us through those individual deals. And then it's all recorded on Gem, so you can still go and see what those commissions are. So it's quite useful from my point of view in sort of commercial role, and also from the sort of finance team who have to go and reconcile the commissions and all of that. They can then refer back to Gem and see to make sure the commissions are what they are and see how it's been worked out. Actually, from a sales perspective, I think most people still do just speak to the kind of helpful sales team to get them to help break down the deal from there.
Brilliant. Okay, so when you speak to the guys, then they're helping you stack the deals and kind of bring all the different elements of the data, the voice all together, the tariffs.
Yeah, literally. So because I think personally, my opinion, EE's tariffs are fairly sort of convoluted. There's quite a lot more tariffs than I think perhaps they need to be. They change quite often as well. So yeah, we find the easiest way is to literally just get someone who's in the know, and they're obviously that is all they deal with is EE. So they really know it. So we can kind of tell them what we want, and they'll work out the best way of doing it. As I say, that does lean back on the Gem system, and so we still then we've got that as sort of a backup, but really we let them kind of put it together for us, and that's really that's one of the main values I think in dealing with them.
Oh, it sounds like a great resource. So on a day-to-day, what does that enable you and your team to be able to do instead then, if you're not having to learn all that and kind of struggle your way through it?
Probably it's the main thing is it actually enables us to sell some EE because we're so busy. We're a very busy team, very busy sales team. As a business, we're kind of constant. So it just allows them to actually sell it. Because to be honest, previously we just would avoid it unless a customer absolutely insisted on being on EE. We would always try to divert them away from that. And so it does actually allow, so we know that if we've got an EE opportunity that has to be on EE, we can speak to someone very quickly and get a quote out for them. So yeah, so it's quite beneficial. Obviously, I say on an overall and on a personal level, getting back any time that we otherwise wouldn't have done, it would have taken a lot longer to get to those results. Is always beneficial because that helps us move things forward for the rest of the business. And it just allows us to get on with other things that would have taken longer. So it does save us time in that sense. But the real thing is it just allows us to actually sell EE, which we just would have avoided before.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. So in terms of, you mentioned sales then, so sales incentives and kind of sales support, what kind of specific support do they offer you in that sense?
So a little or as much as you want as far as the sales support goes. So they'll either literally just do the quote and that's it. If they want us to go, if they want to go through it in a little bit more detail and talk us through the tariffs, then they've kind of got the expertise to do that as well, so they can help the individual salespeople. The sales team have got varying knowledge because some do more EE, some do less. So they'll kind of help as little or as much as they need to. They're also really good on incentives as well, we found. So they're always quite keen to directly incentivize our sales team, which always helps. So, they all have their own individual targets within the business as well. But actually, if they're putting a little bit extra, it's always going to help a sales team move business on a bit more quickly. So yeah, they're quite good on that. Better probably than most of the other providers we deal with.
Sure. Okay. And would that be kind of generic competitions that they can enter, or is it individual kind of resources and results for the individuals and their performance?
Yeah, it tends to be the type of thing they run really is they'll set the sales team targets to do a certain amount of connections, and if they hit, it's purely the mobile sales team. If they hit those targets, then they'll get a certain amount of whatever it might be, whether it's vouchers or otherwise. And then they usually offer a prize for the top spot as well. So if there's someone who's performed particularly well, they'll give them an extra bonus. And then they've also offered team incentives as well, where they give something extra from the team if overall we hit a certain number. So it's good. It's a bit of fun, but also I think it certainly does help them. It focuses the mind a little bit. If there is an EE opportunity, there's still certain kind of, it's legacy really, but certain reluctance to sell EE, I think in the channel generally, but certainly in our company, just because historically it's been difficult. So I think that does help focus those people to think, well, this is really worth it. One, it's actually commercially a good proposition anyway. But if that individual salesperson is getting something extra on top of that, then it's always going to focus the mind a bit. So
yeah, it helps drive the rate of sale, right? Which is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. And then last question really is, Who would you like to give a shout out to? Who do you and your team deal with at Mdee that you like to say, you know, kind of a shout out to?
That's a very tough one, to be honest. And we've had quite a few different people down, and we haven't really got any complaints about anyone. I'd have to say, to be fair, most recently, and that's truly most recently, it's probably a bit unfair on some of the others, but Kerry has been really, really helpful recently. So I think they've sort of consolidated the teams recently. So they've got, rather than just dealing with one account manager, we have multiple account managers we deal with. So they're able to pick up the workload a lot more quickly, and there's always someone there to do it. And actually, really, it's just the fact that Kerry's been added to that team. There's someone else new coming in as well, who we spoke to today, actually. But she's really helped make a difference. I think a lot of that is just because added capacity, but she's got really good knowledge, and the team have been really happy since she's been involved as well. So
fair. Okay, cool. Cheeky question: would you ever consider leaving Mdee for your EE?
No, this is no. I mean, we've well, personally, I've dealt with 2 other distributors. I don't even know how many there are. There probably is only a handful anyway. I think there is a handful, and I've dealt with 2 others. And we have to be totally honest and say EE is still challenging, because I think just because of the proposition it is, but it really is night and day between dealing with Mdee and the others. And as I say, I think that's going back to what I said earlier. I think that's purely because I don't think it's because the other distributors aren't very good or don't have the competency to do it. It's purely that I think, a bit like us, it's lower down on the scale in terms of the business that we do. Frankly, we do more O2 and Vodafone, and then EE is what we'll do after that. And I think that's the same for the other distributors. So EE doesn't seem to be the priority of them. So Mdee being, well, part owned by BT, and exclusively doing EE, yeah, it's completely night and day. So no, at this point, I wouldn't see any reason to leave Mdee for the EE connections.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Karim, and I really appreciate your time. And thank you for your honesty.
All right.